Chapter 011. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Phoenix Inheritance. Talk about hitting the jackpot. Stepping into the secret realm, that burning sensation intensified everywhere I looked. It was just one color, red. After pushing through what felt like a forest of fire, we hit a desert. The landscape was brutal, unforgiving. Definitely not a place for our This asterisk was the secret realm. I closed my eyes, trying to get a feel for the energy, but it was like being slammed by a tidal wave of chaos. Yin and yang, the five elements, everything was out of whack. And that invisible burning power was just leeching the life out of you. My face went grim. Thank God for my Xianyang Ju practice, converting energy into great sun power. Otherwise, this would have been twice as bad. Even so, my Yuan power wasn't going to last forever. Careful of the energy here. Something's definitely off, I warned, but Su Miaoyin didn't seem fazed at all. She was just looking around like it was some kind of tourist attraction. About half a day later, we stopped in this area of fiery red, totally scorched earth, straight ahead. Fire, high-octane heat. Aside from a few charred rocks, it was nothing but rivers of magma and flames. Forget about your average qi absorption. You couldn't even breathe here. Only Su Miaoyin and I could hang out here for long. We pressed on, wading through the fire and lava. As we went, I noticed the temperature started to drop, and that crazy energy started to chill out. Okay, we were getting somewhere. Up ahead, a hill shaped like a phoenix came into view. Boom! That we were about to move closer when the ground started shaking. The hill exploded, showering us with rock. I grabbed Su Miaoyin and hauled us both back. Boom, boom, boom. The noise kept up for a while, then finally stopped. When the dust settled, I looked back to where the hill had been, gone. Just a big, circular basin. A phoenix? I couldn't believe my eyes. Lying there was a phoenix corpse, hung in front, Lin in back, snake head, fish tail, dragon patterns, turtle body, swallow's chin, chicken's beak, and those massive wings. Even dead, it radiated flames. I felt like I was being crushed. Then I spotted it. A dark sword plunged into the phoenix's head, right between the eyes. That was probably what killed it, and the flames weren't doing a thing to the blade. Jackpot. I needed a weapon. If this sword could take down a phoenix, it had to be legendary. I mean, any phoenix powerful enough to create a secret realm was at least a Tongtian realm level, and any weapon that could fatally wound something like that had to be in the same league. Now, how to get past the flames? They were so intense, I was sure they'd incinerate me the second I touched them. Meanwhile, Su Miaoyin had locked onto the phoenix corpse. She started walking towards it, like she was in a trance. Hey! Careful! That I realized she was about to walk right into the firestorm and tried to stop her, but she didn't even hear me. Kept walking. I was sure she was about to be toast. Then, something crazy happened. Those flames, the ones that scared the crap out of me, didn't even touch her. She walked straight up to the phoenix and stared into its eyes. Unbelievable. This whole secret realm was for her. No one else would have gotten this far. Those Tongtian realm flames, even without someone controlling them, would have turned me into ash. A little bummed, not gonna lie. But then I remembered the sword. Okay, the Phoenix inheritance was probably off limits. But I could still snag the blade that took down a Tongtian realm powerhouse. Totally worth the trip. Maybe even better than the inheritance. The second Su Miaoyin touched the phoenix, a strange energy started pulsing out of it. What is? Suddenly, I froze. That energy was solidifying, forming a ghostly figure. It was like looking at royalty, pure power. Its eyes could eclipse the sky. Every move was elegant, dazzling. Even just a glimpse of its soul shadow showed how magnificent it had been in its prime. You're finally here. The shadow spoke. Who are you? Why do I feel so close to you? Su Miaoyin seemed both drawn to and terrified of the figure. You could tell she knew she shouldn't piss this thing off. I am the phoenix before you, and you are my chosen successor. Huh? You're not dead. Are you going to steal my body for a second life? Su Miaoyin blurted out, can't you find someone else? I'm a nobody. I haven't even avenged my parents yet. The shadow twitched. This girl was something else. Don't worry. I'm just a sliver of a soul, about to fade away, it said. I only woke up because I sensed your presence. My mission will be complete once you accept the inheritance. That's it. With that, it ignored the goofy girl and touched her forehead. Instantly, Su Miaoyin dropped like a stone, the terrifying flames around the phoenix surged towards her, the shadow nodded, satisfied. Then, it dissolved into starlight. The moment it disappeared, the phoenix corpse turned to dust. That was it, the end of a Tongtian realm legend. The sword clattered to the ground. Seeing Su Miaoyin was okay, I breathed a sigh of relief. Then I turned my attention to the sword. I picked it up, hands shaking, and examined it. The words God Slayer were etched on the hilt. That had to be its name. It had been stuck in that phoenix's skull for God knows how long. The blade was dark and rusty, looked almost ordinary, but I wasn't buying it. This sword had survived a phoenix's head and those flames. It had to be something special. This was just it playing possum. One day, it would shine again, right here in my hands. Chapter 012. You are listening at novelfull.audio. More inheritance, supercharged physique. Su Chuan wiped the dust off the blade, carefully assessing its feel. Then, it happened. A flood of information surged into his mind from the knife. Kill, kill, kill. I achieved enlightenment through bloodshed, but the weight of my sins prevented me from reaching the heavenly realm. I sacrificed my life, using this killing blade to bring down the phoenix. I leave my sword technique within this blade for a worthy successor. In the next life, I'll fight in the martial arts world once more. In his mind's eye, a figure howled at the sky, each word echoing with intense bloodlust and fierce regret. Su Chuan was stunned. The knife's original owner failed to ascend to the heavenly realm, and ultimately slew the phoenix with his dying breath. Did this mean the knife wielder was a powerhouse at the peak of the reincarnation realm? More importantly, his final words indicated he'd left his self-made sword technique inside the blade. This was a sword technique capable of transcending levels, a desperate final strike against someone in the celestial realm. Su Chuan, overjoyed, immediately deciphered the knife's message. It was true. A swordsmanship manual materialized in his mind. The bloodbath swordplay, a low-tier earth-level sword technique, an earth-level swordplay, even a low-tier one. Su Chuan was practically trembling with excitement. He'd thought the knife was all he'd gained from this secret realm excursion. Turns out, there was an inheritance of earth-level swordsmanship. How powerful was this technique? Su Chuan couldn't say for sure, but he knew one thing: within Tai Holy Land, most inner disciples couldn't even touch earth-level martial arts. Su Chuan picked up the long sword and began practicing the inherited sword moves. Clang, star. The moment he swung the blade, an icy, murderous aura blasted his face. This knife was something else. Even without knowing its exact grade, it was clear this was a valuable weapon, a low-tier earth-level swordplay combined with a precious blade. For Su Chuan, only at the Qi-gathering realm, this was a major windfall, on par with the Phoenix's legacy. Turns out, sticking with the protagonist has its perks. Even if you can't eat the meat, you can still slurp the soup. Su Chuan thought to himself, for the sake of this opportunity, if Su Miaoyin wanted to avenge her family, he'd definitely help her. 3 days later, inside the secret realm, a slender figure practiced swordsmanship with a long blade. Swirling light, whistling wind, the strikes looked pretty damn impressive. Whoosh, star. After another practice session with the bloodbath swordplay manual, Su Chuan stood up, sheathing his sword, panting, his clothes soaked. 3 days, and I still can't even get the hang of the bloodbath swordplay. Su Chuan wiped his brow, feeling helpless. He'd been practicing this technique non-stop for the last 3 days, but even after countless repetitions, he couldn't get it down. The ground was littered with crude, random blade marks. The messy marks betrayed Su Chuan's irritable mood. Well, maybe I'm aiming too high. I should work on the crimson blood swordplay first. This was, after all, Su Chuan's first attempt at earth-level martial arts. The low-tier earth-level bloodbath swordplay was complex and difficult to grasp. A Naki realm warrior like himself simply didn't have the understanding yet. He finally got it. There's a good reason why the Holy Land only allows Naki realm disciples to practice yellow-level martial arts. It wasn't that higher-level techniques didn't exist within the Holy Land, but the higher the level, the harder they were to comprehend. Give him a heaven-level technique right now, and he might spend the rest of his life trying to learn it without success. He'd just die frustrated. Su Chuan. shook his head. It just wasn't the right time. When the time comes, everything will fall into place. I should go check on Su Miaoyin. Su Chuan made up his mind and headed toward her with his blade. Su Miaoyin had been absorbing the inheritance for 3 days, surrounded by flames. There was no danger here, so Su Chuan hadn't paid much attention. Soon, he arrived at the place where the phoenix had died. What the hell? Su Chuan's eyes widened in disbelief, staring at Su Miaoyin. The flames had vanished without a trace. In their place, a chilling aura emanated from Su Miaoyin's body. The cold was so intense that even the ground was freezing. Su Chuan shivered from the cold. Even from a distance, looking closer at Su Miaoyin, he saw she was frozen solid, encased in a massive block of ice. Her body tempering realm cultivation couldn't withstand the intense cold, and she was already on the brink of death. Seeing this, Su Chuan rushed forward. After a moment's thought, Su Chuan understood what was happening. It must be her ice jade physique. The system had previously warned that this physique required a large amount of yang energy to neutralize it before it could be awakened. Su Chuan had assumed the yang energy from the phoenix inheritance would be enough, but he hadn't expected the cold to be this potent. Luckily, he'd caught it in time. Any later, and Su Miaoyin would have been a goner. Placing his hands on her back, Su Chuan transferred his powerful yang energy into Su Miaoyin. This stopped her condition from worsening, but this was only a temporary fix. The only way to solve this issue was to absorb the cold energy in her body, but the cold was so severe that even Su Chuan was a little frightened. Then he recalled Su Miaoyin's terrifying destiny and talent. Su Chuan grit his teeth. Here goes. But he stopped transferring his energy and instead began absorbing the cold energy from her body. The moment the cold entered Su Chuan's body, it seeped into his meridians. Su Chuan instantly froze, shivering uncontrollably. Damn, what is this stuff? Why is it so strong? To avoid being frozen solid, Su Chuan rapidly channeled all his energy to neutralize the cold air, as if sensing a weakness, poured directly into his body, without Su Chuan having to actively draw it in. Frost formed on Su Chuan's face. Anyone who didn't know him would think he'd just emerged from the far north. After a long period of exertion, Su Chuan's yuan energy was running low. He had no choice but to use Xianyang art to continuously absorb the energy of heaven and earth, neutralizing the cold. Like a machine, he worked tirelessly. Boom, star. After what felt like an eternity, a massive roar shook the ground. Qi gathering realm, tier 3, done. Constantly refining heaven and earth energy, and constantly burning through it, the energy in Su Chuan's body had become incredibly pure. He was already at the peak of the 2nd tier of Qi gathering, so breaking through to the 3rd was a natural progression. The cold air emanating from Su Miaoyin's body gradually lessened, until it finally disappeared. Only then did Su Chuan stop. Soon after, Su Miaoyin faintly woke up. My Qi has gotten so much stronger. The moment she opened her eyes, she noticed the changes within herself. Her martial arts cultivation had jumped from the 5th tier of body tempering realm to the 1st tier of the Qi gathering realm. Su Miaoyin was still incredulous. How did my cultivation improve so much all of a sudden? Su Miaoyin repeatedly tested the strength of the energy within her, confirming that she was, indeed, a Qi gathering realm warrior. She was dumbfounded. This talent is something else, damn. Su Chuan noticed it as Su Miaoyin circulated her qi, a fleeting glimmer in his eyes, and he couldn't help but sigh. While Su Chuan had been neutralizing the cold within her, she'd subconsciously begun practicing the inherited techniques. Once the cold was completely neutralized, her cultivation had broken through to the qi gathering realm. Such unnatural talent combined with that incredible physique made Su Chuan's heart ache. Chapter 013. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half a day later, Su Chuan appeared in Tai City. He was covered in dust, a long knife at his side, walking alone through the city streets. A cold, murderous aura radiated from him, making people uneasy and causing them to keep their distance. Su Miaoyin was no longer with him. They had parted ways after exiting the secret realm. She had set off alone for Yaoqi Holy Land. She mentioned having a relative there and intended to inform them of her family's tragic fate. She also planned to join the Holy Land to train and avenge her parents. Su Chuan didn't invite her to join Tai Holy Land, and she declined anyway. He had to let her go. Besides, she was already a martial arts cultivator in the Naki realm and had received the Phoenix inheritance, so her safety wasn't a major concern. Before she left, they agreed that when she was strong enough to seek revenge, he would be there to help her. Returning from the Luophone Mountains, Chuan came straight to Tai City to sell his loot and acquire training resources. He went to a shop specializing in materials and pulled out the 500-year-old Qingling grass. Immediately, everyone in the store turned to look, their eyes filled with envy. They clearly saw him as a wandering cultivator who had gotten lucky in the mountains. A 500-year-old spiritual grass, even a common one like Qingling grass, was worth at least 1,000 low-grade yuan stones. Chuan, feeling the attention, frowned and called out, "Hey, does anyone buy Qingling Chow?" The shopkeeper's eyes lit up. He rushed forward, welcoming Chuan inside and instructing a waiter to prepare tea. "Sir, are you looking to sell this Qingling grass?" the shopkeeper asked, his eyes glued to the grass in Chuan's hand. Chuan nodded, handing it over. "How much yuan stone is it worth?" The shopkeeper carefully took the Qingling grass, examined it with his tools, and said, "Sir, this Qingling grass is excellent, almost 600 years old. We're willing to pay 1,800 low-grade yuan stones." He smiled and returned the grass, stating his price. The customers in the store erupted in whispers. A young man with a sinister look on his face, hiding in the crowd, suddenly showed a greedy expression. He discreetly sent a message to someone. Chuan was surprised by the offer. He had expected only 1,000 stones, not 1,800. That was a significant amount more than he anticipated. He was about to agree when a harsh voice cut through the air. A burly warrior and a group of younger men strode into the shop. Greed flashed in the warrior's eyes as he saw the Qingling grass. "Chuan, how dare you steal my Qingling Chow? Now I know why my precious Ling Chow disappeared. You stole it. Give it back now, and maybe I'll let you live. Otherwise, I'll send you to the law enforcement hall." Chuan, normally patient, was now angry at this blatant setup. He recognized the man, Sun Qian, an outer disciple of the Holy Land, who had appeared in his script before. Sun Qian, backed by family resources, had reached the peak of the 9th level of the body-tempering realm in just a few years. He was known for bullying weaker disciples who lacked resources, often harassing them with his gang. Chuan, previously at the 6th level, had always avoided him. But now, Sun Qian, having somehow learned about the spiritual grass, was trying to steal it with false accusations. "Who's barking? Get out of here," Chuan said, not wanting to waste time. Sun Qian, even at the peak of the 9th level, was no longer a threat. Chuan wasn't intimidated. "What? You call me a dog? You tell me to get out?" Sun Qian shouted, "Grab him. Today, I'm not just taking that spiritual grass, I'm destroying you." Furious that Chuan dared to disrespect him in public, Sun Qian lost his temper. He thought he could easily overpower Chuan, an outer disciple. He wasn't worried about punishment, as his uncle was a deacon in the law enforcement hall and could cover for him. This was why he usually dominated the outer sect. Sun Qian's followers grinned, stepping forward. "Sorry, senior brother Su," they said, raising their swords and attacking Chuan. Chuan frowned. He had planned to reveal his strength during the outer sect assessment, but Sun Qian was forcing his hand. Even a clay figurine had its breaking point. Without another word, Chuan raised his long knife, and immense power surged within him. A powerful aura erupted. "Naki aura? How can you be in the Naki realm?" The force slammed into Sun Qian, nearly forcing him to his knees. He trembled, sweat pouring down his face. He never imagined that Chuan, recently at the 6th level of the body-tempering realm, could have broken through. If he had known, he wouldn't have dared to approach Chuan. "Too many questions. Ask in hell." Chuan snarled, his eyes flashing. He swung his sword, the red blood sword, honed to perfection, blazed with power. Zheng. The sword flashed, creating a whistling sound, centered on Chuan. the terrifying sword light swept away the attackers. With a series of snaps, their arms broke, blood splattering everywhere, and they screamed in pain, unable to fight. "You!" Sun Qian began, but Su Chuan didn't let him finish. Since he had already been provoked, there was no need to hold back. He turned his blade toward Sun Qian. Sun Qian's face twisted in terror, seeing the sword about to strike. He desperately channeled his energy, striking out with his palm to defend himself. That how could someone at the 9th level of the body-tempering realm withstand Su Chuan's sword? He was sent flying dozens of meters, blood gushing from his mouth. Su Chuan's sword shattered his qi and broke his spine. Sun Qian was now crippled, destined to be bedridden for life. 3rd level of Naki realm. How could you break through so fast? Impossible. Sun Qian's eyes were wide with disbelief as he fell to the ground. Before he could say anything more, he coughed up another mouthful of blood and passed out. Chapter 014. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Several outer disciples, their arms hacked off by Su Chuan's sword, stared in utter disbelief. It was less than a month ago that they'd last messed with Su Chuan. Back then, he was stuck at the 6th level of the body-tempering realm. They'd ganged up on him, and he hadn't stood a chance, ending up bedridden for ages. But now, Su Chuan was flaunting his 3rd level Naki realm cultivation. Even Sun Qian, at the 9th level of body tempering, was no match. In under a month, he'd gone from body tempering level 6 to Naki level 3. It blew their minds. They kept telling themselves it was a lie, a trick. But the blood didn't lie, and with the disbelief came sheer terror. He'd crippled Sun Qian without a second thought, even knowing he had an uncle who was a deacon. These guys, they were just regular outer disciples with zero backing. They'd gotten this far by sucking up to Sun Qian for resources. Usually, they just followed Sun Qian around, flexing. Today, they'd wanted to help take Su Chuan down. Big mistake. They'd picked a fight with the wrong guy. If they'd known Su Chuan was a Naki realm martial artist, they wouldn't have dared to lay a finger on him. Now, one of them was missing an arm, and they had no idea what Su Chuan would do next. Senior Brother Su, please, spare us. Senior Brother Su, have mercy. We're all outer disciples of the Holy Land. We'll never do it again. And the info about you was leaked by Wang Matzi. He told Sun Qian. He's the one to blame. Ignoring the pain of their missing limbs, several outer disciples scrambled to their knees, begging for mercy to save their skins. Losing face was nothing, losing their lives was everything. Wang Matzi, in the crowd, saw everyone ratting him out and started sweating bullets, fear gripping him. He slid to his knees in front of Su Chuan. Senior Brother Su, have mercy. I was just being stupid for a minute. Please, sir, forget about me. Let me go. He kowtowed repeatedly, banging his forehead on the ground until it bled, pleading for Su Chuan's forgiveness. You guys, slap yourselves 300 times, hand over everything you own, and get him out of my sight. As for you, Su Chuan said coldly, addressing Wang Matzi, cut off an arm and a leg and cripple your qi. Then, I'll spare your life. After all, this was Holy Land territory. And with so many people watching, Su Chuan couldn't just kill them all without catching hell from the law enforcement hall. Getting punished for some garbage wasn't worth it. He didn't want to be known as a murderer either. Thank you, senior brother. Thank you for sparing us. Hearing Su Chuan's conditions, the outer disciples were overjoyed. 300 slaps and losing all their stuff. Still better than death. They'd seen how terrifying Su Chuan was. Resisting wasn't an option. They started swinging their remaining arms, each blow cracking hard against their faces. Whack! 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 Each slap was loud and clear, showing how much they were putting into it. After 300 slaps, their faces were swollen like pigs' heads. Their own mothers wouldn't recognize them. Then they rolled the unconscious Sun Qian and gathered all their valuables. This was about staying alive, so no one dared to try anything funny. When Su Chuan nodded, they helped each other and dragged Sun Qian away. As for Wang Matzi, Su Chuan's demand left him limp. Cutting off an arm and a leg and destroying his qi was a death sentence. He'd be a cripple. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, a cripple's life was utter misery. But Seeing Su Chuan's cold eyes, he knew he might not survive the day if he didn't do as he was told, so, gritting his teeth, he grabbed a long sword from the ground, chopped off his left arm and leg, and then destroyed his own chi-si with a single palm. All he felt was regret. If it wasn't for greed, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Once everyone had cleared out of the store, Su Chuan started going through the stuff he'd gotten from Sun Qian and the outer disciples. A simple ring caught his eye. Su Chuan picked it up, and with a thought, a small, closed-off space of a few cubic meters appeared before him. Su Chuan was thrilled. He knew what it was. A storage ring. This was incredible. These rings were made of a rare material, and each had its own pocket dimension, some bigger than others. They could store anything except living things, and the contents would never change, a must-have for travel and shopping. Even inner disciples didn't always have one. Sun Qian had one. Now that was a pleasant surprise. Su Chuan calmly pocketed it. As for the rest, there was nothing good except for a few dozen low-grade yuan stones. Su Chuan skimmed through it and lost interest. He turned to leave. Mr. Su, hold on. Seeing Su Chuan about to walk out, the shopkeeper decided to take a chance. He wasn't letting the prize get away. Su Chuan turned, looking at the shopkeeper, puzzled. I was wondering, is your Qingling grass still for sale, Mr. Su? Su Chuan finally remembered why he came. He'd almost forgotten all about it after the interruption. It is. He pulled out the Qingling grass and handed it to the shopkeeper. He also gave him the centipede demon pill and some other odds and ends he'd found in the Luophone mountain range. Can you tell me what these are worth in yuan stones? If the price is right, I'll sell them all to you. The shopkeeper took everything, carefully placing the Qingling grass in a jade box, then getting down to business, seriously checking out the other items. Mr. Su, your Qingling grass and these other items are worth a total of 2,500 low-grade yuan stones. What do you think? Sounds good. If you give me the yuan stones, you've got a deal. Su Chuan had no idea what this stuff was worth. The shopkeeper's price was fair, even better than he'd expected. He wasn't about to say no. After getting the yuan stones, Su Chuan headed back to the Holy Land. As night fell. Back in his cave at the Holy Land, Su Chuan lay on his bed, lost in thought. The last couple of weeks had been more exciting than his entire life. His cultivation had skyrocketed, and he'd had some great opportunities. It was nothing like his life before. But there's still trouble brewing. Su Chuan frowned. He'd acted in self-defense, sure, but the fact remained that he'd crippled Sun Qian. The Holy Land might not care, but Sun Qian was vengeful and would definitely seek revenge through his uncle, a deacon in the law enforcement hall. A deacon in the outer law enforcement hall had to be at least at the first level of mortal transformation realm, maybe even higher. If that guy came after him, Su Chuan wasn't sure he could handle it. Avoiding that disaster is the most important thing right now. You need to be strong to be safe. Only strength can protect you from all threats. I need to use my time wisely to improve my strength. Good thing I sold those things. I have quite a few yuan stones now, enough to help me train for a while. Having made up his mind, he didn't hesitate. Time was running out, and he didn't know when Sun Qian would come with his uncle. It wouldn't be long. The external examination was coming up soon. They wouldn't dare to make a move then. Su Chuan headed back to the training room. It was the best training spot for outer disciples. The only downside was the yuan stone cost, but that wasn't a flaw in the training room itself. It was his own situation. Chapter 015. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stepping out of isolation, mastering the red blood sword technique, improving your strength doesn't necessarily mean leveling up your cultivation. Rushing ahead isn't always a good thing. I bought the first level of the red blood sword technique at Wanbao Tower, but the other two are still a mystery. If I can master the red blood sword technique, and combine it with the heavenly level remnant technique, I'll have a fighting chance when the crisis hits. Sun Qian's connections have created a crisis for me, but these past few days have made me stronger. I took a deep breath, cleared my head, and dove back into studying the art of the sword. Meanwhile, in a secluded courtyard of the law enforcement hall, a middle-aged man in fancy robes glared at the outer disciples kneeling before him. Tell me what happened. Who messed up Sun Qian like this? You didn't just take away his chi hai, you crippled him. This was Luo Tong, Sun Qian's uncle, and a deacon in the law enforcement hall of the outer gate of the Tai Holy Land. Sun Qian was his sister's only child, doted on by the head of the Sun family. Luo Tong only got his position as deacon because of the Sun family's influence. Their one condition was that he look after Sun Qian in the outer sect and help him get into the inner sect. If he succeeded, the Sun family would make sure he had all the resources he needed to reach the magical realm. So, he'd been babysitting Sun Qian, cleaning up his messes, and letting him get away with everything. It's because of this that Sun Qian ran the outer sect without anyone daring to cross him. Sun Qian was at the peak of the 9th level of the body tempering realm and was about to take the inner sect exam, but today, while Luo Tong was in seclusion, he got news that Sun Qian's Qi Hai was gone, and he was a cripple. He rushed to Sun Qian's place to see for himself. Seeing Sun Qian unconscious on the bed, Luo Tong flew into a rage. This wasn't just about Sun Qian's future, it was about all the work he'd put in over the years being destroyed in a single blow. And now, he'd have to face the Sun family. The thought sent a chill down his spine. He rounded up Sun Qian's crew and demanded to know what happened. It was Su Chuan. He crippled Sun Qian and destroyed his Qi Hai. We had nothing to do with it. Blame Su Chuan. That they knelt on the ground, afraid to look up. They all knew how ruthless Luo Tong was. They'd escaped Su Chuan, only to fall into Luo Tong's hands. Su Chuan. That loser who's been in the Holy Land for 8 years and is only at the 6th level of the body tempering realm. How could he beat you, let alone cripple Sun Qian? Luo Tong knew the name. Sun Qian had bullied Su Chuan before, and Luo Tong had covered it up. He couldn't believe these guys. Beating someone above your level was possible, but a 6th level body tempering realm warrior suddenly beating a 9th level disciple. No one would buy that. We're not lying. Su Chuan isn't a 6th level body tempering realm warrior at all. He's a genuine 3rd level Qi satisfying realm warrior. He took our arms off with one strike. One more and he would have finished Sun Qian. Seeing that Luo Tong didn't believe them, they added details to their story. They said Su Chuan stole Sun Qian's spiritual grass, got caught, and then beat him to a pulp. They wanted to put all the blame on Su Chuan. Su Chuan, huh? Well. You dared to mess with my nephew and ruin my plans? I'll make sure you regret it. Luo Tong said through gritted teeth. Without the Sun family's resources, he'd never reach the magical realm, and this Su Chuan was to blame. Luo Tong wanted him dead. Take these guys to the dungeon. Charge them with colluding with outsiders to kill fellow sect members. After getting what he wanted, he gave the order. Yes, sir. Law enforcement hall disciples came in and dragged the kneeling men away. Spare us. It wasn't our fault. They cried out in protest. Luo Tong ignored them. Fonger, do you know what to do? After the room went quiet, Luo Tong spoke to the empty space. Yes, father, a voice answered. Then, a figure stepped out of the shadows, looking like a younger version of Luo Tong. This was Luo Tong's son, Luo Feng, an inner disciple at the 6th level of the Qi realm, skilled in stealth assassination. With Luo Feng on the case, Su Chuan would be done for. Good. Just make sure it's clean. Meanwhile, Su Chuan was practicing swordsmanship. The red blood sword technique might only be a low-level skill, but it was difficult to master, which is why it was sold at Wanbao Tower. But it wasn't too much for Su Chuan. He had enough resources, practiced Xianyang Ju, and developed the Great Sun physique. His Yuan power was strong, and his understanding and skills had improved. He quickly found his rhythm. He grabbed his sword and started practicing the moves from the manual, one slash, then another, and another. He kept swinging his sword in the training room. His shirt was off, sweat pouring down his body, but he didn't notice. He was lost in his practice, tireless. After 2 days, Su Chuan paused, finally coming out of his trance. His body was exhausted. He could fall asleep instantly, but he was happy. He was one step away from mastering the red blood sword technique. He could feel the blood and energy surging within him. He steeled himself, grabbed his sword, and stared ahead with killer intent. Kill! He roared, took a step forward, and slashed with his sword. An indescribable force appeared, powerful enough to tear through space. The sword light crashed like waves against the walls of the training room. he struck with a life-or-death intent, channeling all his energy and blood, making him impossible to match. The room filled with a chilling murderous aura. That strike, that power, proved he'd mastered the red blood sword technique. Chapter 016. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Edited content in 2 days. Chuan had mastered a yellow-level sword technique. This speed was insane. Even a prodigy would usually need weeks to reach that level, but Chuan did it in just 2 days. It was partly due to his exceptional talent, but mostly thanks to the opportunities he'd seized. As he continued to train and use his golden fingers to unlock more opportunities, he knew he'd become a formidable martial artist one day. He even started to think about vying for the position of Holy Son of the Holy Land. It was something he never would have dared to imagine before. His newfound strength had given him confidence. But first, I need to survive this current mess. Chuan quietly assessed his situation and his current abilities. He was only at the 3rd level of qi absorption, but thanks to the Xianyang Ju, the Yuan power in his body was incredibly pure, far surpassing that of other warriors at the same level, and now that he'd mastered the scarlet blood sword technique, his lack of offensive skills had been addressed. Overall, he figured he could now use the scarlet blood sword technique at the 3rd level to instantly kill warriors at the 6th level of qi absorption. He might even be able to hold his own against someone at the 7th level. After his calculations, Chuan felt pretty good. Rapid progress like that always felt great. With that, Chuan ended his training and headed back to his cave for some much-needed rest. 2 straight days of training had left him exhausted. All he wanted to do was crash on his bed and sleep. He needed to be ready for what was coming. As for Sun Qian, Luo Tong's treatment had helped him recover from most of his injuries. The only issue was that his destroyed Qihai couldn't be fixed, but otherwise, he was mostly like a normal person. However, he was now confined to a wooden wheelchair for the rest of his life. This was tough for Sun Qian to accept. "Uncle, you have to avenge me. I'm useless now, my life is over. I want Chuan dead. I want him to die." Sun Qian wheeled himself over to Luo Tong, seething with rage. He wanted nothing more than to tear Chuan limb from limb, devour his flesh, and drink his blood. Chuan had destroyed his Qihai, crippled him, and ruined his life. He knew he'd never have the support of his family again. That was just how things worked in this world. He could only imagine the other Sun family members who were eyeing his position. He didn't even want to think about what his future held. "Alright, what good does yelling do?" Luo Tong snapped. Sun Qian was useless now and had lost all value to him. "I've asked your cousin to take care of Chuan. He'll definitely die a painful death. Just sit tight and wait for the good news. Brother Feng is on it." "Really?" Sun Qian was ecstatic. He knew how skilled Luo Feng was. With his stealth assassination techniques and his 6th level of qi absorption, it was basically a death sentence for Chuan. He'd been holding his breath for the past 2 days, barely able to cope. Now that he'd suddenly heard this good news, he felt revitalized. He even started to fantasize about Chuan being tortured and dying a miserable death. The thought made Sun Qian grin. Meanwhile, Chuan had woken up from his nap. After a good sleep, he felt refreshed and in a great mood. With the outer sect examination coming up in a few days, Chuan planned to head to the forest of 10,000 demons outside the Holy Land to gain some experience and prepare. Plus, he wanted to test out the full power of the scarlet blood sword technique at the 3rd level. Chuan packed his essentials and the animal skin with the body-quenching fluid recipe into his new storage ring and prepared to leave. He had to admit, having a storage ring was incredibly convenient. Not only were the old storage bags tiny, but the weight of the items inside was still a factor, making them a pain to carry around. The storage ring didn't have that problem. The space was huge, and the weight of the ring remained the same, no matter how much you packed into it. What a steal! Chuan was almost grateful to Sun Qian for gifting him such a treasure. We will stop updating novels on this site, move to our new site, https://readwn.com// In high spirits, Chuan left the Holy Land and arrived at the forest of 10,000 demons after half a day. The Holy Land had created the forest of 10,000 demons specifically for disciples to test their skills. It was home to monsters of all levels, all confined by a formation that kept them from leaving. The forest, but the Holy Land disciples could come and go as they pleased. Without that formation, the 10,000 demons forest would have been raised long ago. Entering the forest, Chuan started hunting the monsters inside. However, due to his current level, Chuan only dared to hunt monsters near the edge of the forest. The deeper you went, the stronger the monsters became, and Chuan was no match for them just yet. As he fought the monsters, Chuan gained more and more combat experience and became increasingly proficient with the Scarlet Blood Sword technique. That night, Chuan lay in his makeshift camp, gazing at the stars as he slowly drifted off to sleep. Suddenly, a powerful force erupted, shattering the defenses Chuan had set up. The sound woke Chuan with a start. He grabbed his sword and scanned his surroundings cautiously. "Who's there?" Chuan yelled, but no one answered. It was as if a monster had caused the disturbance, but Chuan didn't let his guard down. Just then, a figure appeared behind him, aiming a dagger at Chuan. "Get lost!" Chuan reacted instantly and swung his sword behind him. However, the figure was quick and managed to dodge the blow. Chuan turned around and saw who it was. The person was dressed in black, blending into the darkness of the night. A powerful aura emanated from him. A warrior at the 6th level of chi absorption. Chuan couldn't recall ever offending someone at that level, especially someone who would go to such lengths to assassinate him. "Who are you?" Chuan frowned and asked sternly, but the person didn't answer. He just stared at Chuan with murderous intent. Chuan decided to rely on the system. He used a reconnaissance skill, and information about the person appeared in his mind. Name, Luo Feng. Realm, 6th level of inner chi. Talent, once in a lifetime. Destiny, shadow assassination, blue, supporting the demon, white. Life script, villain supporting role, protagonist stepping stone. Opportunity, none. Shadow assassination, with the talent of shadow, he has the potential to be a killer. The demon of helping his divorce, cousin Sun Qian. If he helps his younger brother all day long, he will eventually backfire. It was all clear now. Chuan knew who this was, so, this was Sun Qian's cousin. Luo Feng had decent talent and impressive cultivation, but with that supporting the demon destiny and the villain supporting role, protagonist stepping stone life script, he was destined to be ruined by Sun Qian. Even if Chuan didn't kill him today, he'd die in the hands of some other protagonist because of Sun Qian in the future. Chuan couldn't help but feel sorry for Luo Feng. It was never good to have a cousin like that. Luo Feng, noticing the look on Chuan's face, frowned. The kid didn't seem to take him seriously at all. He was even looking at him with pity. Whether it was because he was overconfident or something else, it had infuriated him. Luo Feng glared at Chuan, his eyes filled with murderous intent. "You're the one who crippled my cousin. I don't know how you managed to reach the 3rd level of chi absorption, but you shouldn't have crippled Sun Qian in public. Today, you die." He looked smug. His 6th level chi absorption strength, combined with the techniques of an inner disciple, gave him the confidence to easily defeat Chuan. He chalked up his previous failure to carelessness. "Humph, you want to kill me? I don't think you have what it takes." Chuan scoffed, preparing to fight. "Alright, very good." Luo Feng was furious at Chuan's response. His murderous intent was plain as day. This would be Chuan's final resting place. Chapter 017. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kill with a single stroke. The forest was silent, broken only by the occasional growl of some beast. Cold moonlight bathed the scene. A fight was about to go down. Luo Feng wasted no time. Blood pumping, he closed the distance to Chuan in a flash. Channeling his Yuan Qi, he aimed a powerful palm strike at Chuan's head. He wasn't using his full strength, though. Killing Chuan outright would be too easy. He wanted to savor it, break his bones one by one, shatter every meridian in his body, and finally obliterate his Qi. He wanted Chuan to experience excruciating pain before finally dying in agony. Only then would he understand the suffering he deserved for daring to harm his cousin. He was already picturing Chuan's agonizing demise, a living hell, and a twisted smile crept across his face. Living in the shadows had definitely warped him a bit. Chuan remained calm as the palm hurtled towards him. Just as the strike was about to land, *clang, star. A sword flashed. A streak of cold light instantly intercepted Luo Feng's attack. Ha! The blade sent Luo Feng staggering backward, a look of genuine shock on his face. The guy was fast. More than that, Luo Feng realized that Su Chuan packed a serious punch. The impact of the blade had already caused blood to well up on his palm. "You're gonna pay for that." The pain in his hand fueled Luo Feng's rage, twisting his features into a snarl. A Naki level 6 warrior, injured by a Naki level 3 nobody. Unacceptable. Unable to contain his fury, he unleashed his full power. In an instant, a perfect copy of himself materialized. The clone radiated raw energy, ready to deliver a devastating blow to Su Chuan. The original Luo Feng vanished, his dagger held tight, like a viper ready to strike. This was his signature move, the feint and strike, and it had claimed countless victims. Luo Feng even used it to overcome the odds, killing a level 4 Naki warrior when he was only level 2. Now, at level 6, it was even more deadly. With that track record, Luo Feng was supremely confident in this attack. Su Chuan didn't stand a chance. He looked at Su Chuan like he was already a corpse, but Su Chuan didn't seem fazed by Luo Feng's threatening advance. From their brief exchange, he'd already sized up Luo Feng. Despite being at level 6, his foundation was weak, as if he'd been artificially boosted. His actual strength was more like level 5 at best. And Su Chuan had the power to instantly take out a level 6. Time to end this. He stopped holding back, unleashing a torrent of Yuan Qi while simultaneously activating the second level of the red blood sword technique, Raging Blood. The long sword became a blur of terrifying light, a series of furious waves crashing down. Just as Luo Feng's clone was about to connect with a punch, the original Luo Feng's dagger aimed for Su Chuan's heart. *clang, star. The sound of metal on metal rang out. The moment they collided, Su Chuan's blade tore through the clone's fist, shattering it. Then, he twisted the blade, blocking Luo Feng's dagger. The force of the parry sent Luo Feng flying, crashing into a tree before he could stop. Su Chuan, on the other hand, stood his ground, unmoved. "No way. How did you survive that?" Luo Feng stared in disbelief at Su Chuan, still standing with his sword, his eyes wide with shock. He couldn't believe that his most devastating attack had been shrugged off so easily. That had never happened before. Only someone far more powerful could have done that, but Su Chuan was just a level 3 Naki realm warrior. Fear began to grip him. Su Chuan wasn't the pushover he'd imagined. Even using his strongest technique, he hadn't gained any ground. He'd actually been defeated, and Su Chuan looked like he hadn't even broken a sweat. The figure standing so confidently in the distance made Luo Feng feel even more pressure. In that moment of hesitation, Su Chuan seized his opportunity. He channeled every last bit of energy into the red blood sword technique. The long sword became a flash of lethal energy that reached Luo Feng in an instant. Luo Feng tried to defend himself, but after only one strike, Su Chuan severed his arm. Then, with the same motion, Su Chuan's blade sliced across Luo Feng's neck. *thwack, star. Luo Feng's head flew into the air before landing on the ground, blood spurting from his wound, staining the earth. Luo Feng was dead. A level 6 Naki realm inner disciple had fallen at the hands of Su Chuan, on his way to avenge his cousin. Phew! After finishing Luo Feng off, Su Chuan let out a sigh of relief. Before the fight, he'd been a little worried he might not be strong enough. After all, he was fighting 3 levels above his own and his opponent was an inner disciple with plenty of tricks, but it turned out to be so easy. The fight wasn't as hard as the fight against the giant centipede. That surprised him. Then he remembered he was cultivating heaven-level skills and his power was far beyond those of inner disciples. Plus, the long sword he was wielding was the key to victory. If he didn't have a good knife, he wouldn't have been able to execute the scarlet blood knife technique, and he definitely wouldn't have been able to kill Luo Feng with a single strike. With that, Su Chuan nodded in satisfaction. After looting Luo Feng's body, Su Chuan dragged him to a monster habitat. By sunrise, his body would be gone, not even bones left. Everything would be dead without any evidence. Back at his house, Sun Qian was waiting. He held the messenger jade talisman containing Luo Feng's aura, waiting for news that Su Chuan was dead. Ever since he'd learned that Luo Feng had taken action, he'd been on the edge of his seat, unable to sleep. But then, the messenger jade talisman crumbled to dust. Sun Qian stared at his hands, confused. Suddenly, he understood. He stared in terror as he sat in the wooden wheelchair. A strong smell of urine filled the air and he felt a warm liquid seep out. Sun Qian was scared out of his mind and peed himself. The shattering of the talisman could only mean one thing: the owner of the aura inside had died. There was no other possibility. Cousin is dead. Dead? He looked at his hands in disbelief. His cousin, whom he thought invincible, had died on the way to assassinate Chuan. His whole world crumbled as he sank to the ground, muttering the words dead, dead, dead. Ha 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 ha. My cousin is dead. Sun Qian started laughing maniacally. His laughter woke up Luo Tong, who came out to see what was happening. He found Sun Qian slamming his head against a stone pillar in the courtyard. Sun Qian died at the scene. Luo Tong rushed over and looked at the dead Sun Qian and the pile of broken jade talismans on the ground. He immediately knew what had happened. My son, my Feng'er. He cried bitterly, clutching the pile of jade fragments. Chapter 018. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The outer sect trials are underway, starting with the first challenge. Chuan, I swear I'll kill you for what you did to my son. Luo Tong, consumed by rage, roared through gritted teeth. Luo Feng was his only son, the one he'd pinned all his hopes on. He never imagined the boy would die trying to take out some random outer disciple. Now, he just wanted to rip Chuan apart, limb by limb. Meanwhile, Chuan had found a cave in the monster forest to catch his breath. Killing Luo Feng had been pretty profitable. He'd scored over 3,000 low-grade yuancher stones, plus a bunch of cultivation pills and other useful stuff. Guess that's what you get when you're an inner disciple. Compared to what Chuan was used to, it was a whole different ballgame. He popped a few elixirs and grabbed some yuan stones, ready to push for the 4th level of Naki. The outer sect exam was only a couple of days away. He had to ace it and get promoted to the inner sect. Downing the elixir, Chuan immediately shut his eyes and started practicing the Xianyang Ju. He could feel the elixir surging through him, absorbing the power to boost his strength. 2 days later, Chuan emerged from the cave, having successfully hit the 4th level of the Qi Nai realm. Time to head back to the Holy Land. Chuan did a quick mental countdown. Tomorrow was the big day, the official start of the outer sect trials. This was his last shot. Nail the trials and become an inner sect disciple, and he'd be set. But if he blew it, even with his 4th level Naki realm, he'd be busted down to handyman status. No exceptions. Holy Land didn't mess around with their rules. By the time Chuan got back to the Holy Land, it was already the next day. The annual Holy Land outer sect trials were about to kick off. As the top Holy Land in the eastern region, the Holy Land's outer trials were a major event. Warriors from all over the place came to watch, and there were thousands of outer disciples vying for a spot. Most were just about to hit the Qi absorption stage, but some had been grinding in the Naki realm for ages, waiting for the trials to make their move. After all, the higher you ranked, the more the inner sect elders liked you, and that meant more resources to boost your training. Tai Square was packed. Chuan squeezed his way into the mob of disciples ready to compete. Those who weren't competing were buzzing about who was going to win. Some of the sharper ones were even running a betting pool in the outer sect. Chuan's name was on the list. Spotting it, Chuan got an idea. He pulled out all the yuan stones he had and bet on himself to take first place. The odds were insane, 500 to 1, but Chuan was confident in his chances. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, 3 figures strolled from the Holy Land to the platform overlooking the square. Chuan recognized them all. Inner sect elders, big shots you hardly ever saw. And here they were, all 3 of them, at the outer sect trials. Some of the disciples recognized a few of them, and a ripple of excitement ran through the crowd. The elders being here meant things were about to get real. The 3 elders surveyed the thousands of outer disciples, beaming. The outer sect is stacked with talent these days. What a blessing for our Holy Land. Yeah, the turnout for the outer sect trials is way up this year. Heard there's a kid named Su Chen who's a real prodigy. Wonder if he's in the mix. Probably is. Alright, enough chatter. Lao Li, you're up for this first round. The 2 elders were chatting away, but the third one, who looked like he hadn't cracked a smile in years, glanced at the sun and spoke up. The others shut their traps quick. One of the elders stepped forward, a big grin plastered on his face as he looked at the slightly green boys and girls below. His name was Li Hong, and he was rocking the third level of reincarnation. He raised his hands, and the noise died down instantly. No messing around, Li Hong cut right to the chase. These trials are split into 2 stages. First one's all about testing your will. We want to see if you've got the guts to keep pushing forward in martial arts. Developing your mind is key to mastering martial arts. Let the first stage of the trials officially begin. As Li Hong finished, a massive arena rose up beneath the disciples' feet, the whole thing wrapped in some kind of energy field. Is that the heart-refining formation? Su Chuan muttered, feeling the energy of the field. He'd heard of the heart-refining formation, never actually been inside one before. Suddenly, the formation kicked in, and Su Chuan felt his head swim. When he looked up, everything had changed. He was staring at a body that was clearly a few sizes smaller. Had he gone back to when he first joined the Holy Land? Back then, he'd been a talented kid, full of dreams about hitting the top of the martial arts world, but the years that followed had crushed those dreams. He'd given up, lost all those crazy ideas, and just when he thought it was all over, the system had shown up and given him new hope. Taking a deep breath, Su Chuan thought, with the system on my side, I can make it to the top. I'm not giving up again. His eyes flashed with conviction. Confidence radiated from him. Then, Su Chuan's whole body pulsed with power, and the illusion shattered like glass. Back in the arena, Su Chuan looked around. He was the first one to snap out of it. Everyone else was either confused or totally lost in their own heads. Not long after Su Chuan came to, someone in the corner finally opened his eyes. What? He was first. Seeing Su Chuan, he was stunned. You think you can steal first place from me? Think again. He vowed to teach Su Chuan a lesson if he got the chance. First place was his and his alone. Anyone who tried to take it was going to regret it. If Su Chuan had glanced over, he would have seen that it was Su Chen, the guy he'd stolen the opportunity from at Wanbao Tower. Half an hour ticked by. Those who were going to wake up had already done so. There were still over 1,000 outer disciples stuck in the arena. Li Hong waved his hand, the formation faded, and the arena sank back into the ground. He eyed the disciples who hadn't woken up in time and said, "Too bad. You guys didn't make the cut. You can leave." Chapter 019. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Alright, listen up. You all aced the first round. Shows you've got the fire for this martial arts gig. You gotta keep that hunger burning. Next up, the real deal. Nail this, and you're in, inner circle, Holy Land. Here's the breakdown. Combat time. You're heading into the trial tower to scrap with some demons. 10 floors cleared, you're in, and for you overachievers, every floor past 10. Bonus loot. The higher you climb, the bigger the payday. So, get after it. The crowd went wild. Trial tower. Nobody saw that coming. Usually, the second test was just a monster hunt. Bag enough beasts, you're golden. But the tower? That was inner circle territory. Every floor's got nasty creatures looking to make you their lunch. Inner disciples used it to sharpen their skills and grab some swag. Now, they were sending them in there. Some were stoked, visions of that 10th floor loot dancing in their heads. Others? Not so much. They were green around the gills, clearly short on actual fight experience, and the thought of facing down demons. Terrifying, but Jean Lai wasn't running a daycare. With a wave of his hand, boom, all those who passed, including Su Chuan, were teleported to the tower's entrance. The trial tower stood tall near the transfer tower in the Holy Land's heart. Elder Jean Lai laid it on thick. Heads up in there. This ain't a game. You die, you die. No joke. Jean Lai's serious face silenced the excited chatter. Ha! Trial tower. Piece of cake. The silence shattered. Su Chen strutted forward, oozing arrogance. Jean Lai's face darkened, but he held his tongue. The kid was gonna get a rude awakening in there. Su Chen turned to Su Chuan, dripping with disdain. Hope you can actually beat me for once. Su Chuan was baffled. Sure, he knew Su Chen, the first lucky guy he'd met, and he'd yoinked that Xianyang Ju thing, but that was it. Why the hate? Scratching his head, Su Chuan pulled up the system to check Su Chen's profile. Name, Su Chen, level, Qi realm 7th level, talent, center of attention, destiny, son of luck, gold, turns lemons into lemonade, purple, emotional roller coaster, white, life story, Qi son of luck's road to monster fighting and upgrade. Opportunity 1, tomorrow, clear the 10th floor of the trial tower, bagging the hidden reward, a creation lotus seed. Eat it whole for a major talent boost and level up. Opportunity 2, 5 days from now, his rapid growth will smash the trial tower's Qi realm record. He'll ace the outer sect exam, join Jinyang Peak, and unlock the sword secrets of past masters hidden on the mountain's back wall. Opportunity 3, 15 days out, a mission to Dingyan City will see his goons stealing some skills from a kid selling stuff to pay for his dad's funeral. Hidden inside, the full Xianyang Ju heaven-level skills. Su Chuan was speechless, frozen in place. After a moment, he snapped out of it. This guy's something else. Talk about a golden goose, Su Chuan thought. Since losing the Xianyang Ju, Su Chen had rocketed from level 2 to 7. Insane. Despite getting one of his opportunities stolen, Su Chen now had 3 more lined up. And each one was a serious game changer. Wholesale, indeed. Su Chuan was green with envy. That lotus seed alone made him drool. The creation lotus seed was the real deal, born in the heart of the earth. Everyone knew talent was fixed at birth, but this thing changed the rules. Eat it, and boom, instant upgrade. Better stats, smoother path, and clear sailing all the way to heaven realm, no roadblocks. Bottom line, the lotus seed turned anyone into a prodigy overnight. Su Chuan never figured he'd see that name pop up during an outer exam, and the complete Xianyang Ju. Jackpot, couldn't find it with a map, but then it fell in his lap. What Su Chuan needed right now was the rest of the Xianyang Ju. He'd only scored the Qi receiving level stuff at Wanbao Pavilion, good for the 9th level, max. To reach the mortal transformation realm, he'd need the full set or find a new skill. Talk about an opportunity. Su Chuan couldn't hide his excitement. His eyes locked on Su Chen, burning with new intensity. Su Chen noticed Su Chuan was ignoring him, and it pissed him off even more. He was ready to teach Su Chuan a lesson right there in front of Elder Jinlai. Thankfully, Jinlai spoke up. Alright, move it. Remember, if things get hairy, bail out. The tower will yank you out. Don't be a hero and get yourself killed. Before anyone could answer, Elder Jinlai gave them a shove, sending them tumbling into the trial tower's first floor. Chapter 020. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 10th level world, Demon Tribe. The most important thing about this trip is snagging those lotus seeds of fortune. This hinges on whether he can ace the assessment, upgrade his martial arts potential, build a rock-solid foundation, and even score a game-changing opportunity to become the holy son of the Holy Land down the road. He's gotta play it smart. The intel says that the lotus seed of creation is a hidden reward after clearing the 10th level. With a clear plan in mind, Su Chuan's next move is a speedrun to floor 10. Beating Su Chen to the punch, then finding the demon tribe, wiping them out, and grabbing those lotus seeds of creation. Right now, Su Chuan's only focus is seizing every chance he can. He grabs his blade and heads into the first level trial. Each floor of this trial tower is like a miniature world with its own unique trial missions. Complete the task, and you advance to the next level. Su Chuan gets lucky and quickly finds the trial mission on the first floor. Slay the Snake King at the 3rd level of the Naki realm in Poisonous Snake Valley. Normally, a first-level Naki realm warrior could take down a Snake King at the 3rd level of the Naki realm solo, but this mission is obviously not going to be that easy. Poisonous Snake Valley lives up to its name, swarming with venomous snakes. To kill the Snake King, you gotta deal with the snake horde first, or you won't even get close. Following the mission intel, Su Chuan arrives at Poisonous Snake Valley, just as he expected. The valley is crawling with venomous snakes, though none are higher than the peak of the body-tempering realm. Damn, someone with trypophobia would probably pass out right here. Even though Chuan isn't scared of snakes, the sheer number of venomous snakes covering the ground and constantly nipping at him still gives him the creeps. Die. Chuan swings his blade, unleashing a powerful strike. A sharp wave of sword energy tears through the air, slicing through the poisonous snakes on the ground, instantly killing them. Chuan's attack carves a path through the sea of snakes. Sensing an intruder, the remaining snakes hiss and charge at him, unfazed by the previous attack. Bring it on. Chuan hacks away with his sword, cutting down snakes left and right before they can get close. He uses this opportunity to push deeper into poisonous Snake Valley. The Snake King is holed up in a cave deep within the valley. Without much trouble, Chuan reaches the snake cave. With his cultivation at the 4th level of Qi realm, the poisonous snakes outside couldn't even scratch him. Inside the snake cave, Chuan finds the Snake King, a colorful giant snake, about 6 feet long. It's surrounded by a group of venomous snakes at the 1st level of Naki realm. So that's why the small fries were all outside. You've hogged all the tough guys. Time to die. Chuan doesn't want to waste time on the 1st level of the trial tower. He wants a quick fight. Sensing his intentions, the Snake King commands the group of poisonous snakes to attack first. Whoosh! A gust of fishy wind blows through the cave as the snakes lunge at Chuan, but Chuan dodges and weaves, evading the attacks, and his long knife flashes. In an instant, the poisonous snakes guarding the Snake King are beheaded. Now, only the Snake King remains in the cave. Enraged that his minions were so easily wiped out, the Snake King lashes out with its tail. Seeing this, Chuan grabs the snake's tail and jumps onto its back. He aims the long knife at its vitals and stabs with all his might. Thunk! The long knife sinks deep into the Snake King. Roar! The pain is excruciating. The Snake King thrashes wildly, trying to throw Chuan off. Beasts are just beasts. They can only rely on brute force. Chuan sneers and raises his sword again. He pushes his energy to the limit and unleashes the 3rd level of the red blood sword technique. Boom! With a deafening explosion, the Snake King is blasted into a shower of blood. The 1st level trial is complete, and Chuan successfully advances to the 2nd level of the trial tower. Qin, meanwhile, finishes off his last demon beast and reaches the 2nd floor as well. From then on, Chuan slays every monster and demon he encounters. He tears through the tower, reaching the 10th floor in just one day. Outside the tower, the 3 elders watch the 10th floor light up and smile with satisfaction. Impressive. I didn't expect a disciple to reach the 10th floor so quickly. The cultivation level of this year's outer disciples is higher than in previous years. It's not surprising that they reached the 10th level so quickly. Upon arriving at the 10th floor, Chuan immediately notices the difference. He begins to see traces of buildings in this world. They're simple, but they're definitely buildings. The demon tribe must be nearby. With this thought in mind, Chuan heads towards the area where he found the buildings. Finally, on a plain, he spots his target, the demon tribe. He also receives the task prompt for the 10th floor: eliminate all demons on this plane. Without hesitation, Chuan raises his sword and charges forward. Humans and demons are mortal enemies. Now that he's found them, he can't hold back. Before Chuan can reach the tribe, 2 patrolling demons spot him. He quickly hides behind a nearby tree and listens. Do you think the leader's plan will work? We've been trapped here for generations. Can we really escape? The 2 demons are being secretive, even during their patrol, as if they can't stand the light. It has to work. We have to trust the leader. Once he merges with that thing, he can lead us back to our world. That Tai Holy Land is cursed. They've kept us trapped here for so long. When our clan returns, we'll be the first to destroy them. One of the demons says angrily. Chuan overhears their conversation. The thing they're talking about is likely the lotus seed of creation. The demon tribe has obviously discovered the magic of the lotus seeds, and their leader is trying to fuse with it. We can't waste any time. He has to get the lotus seeds of creation before the leader merges with them. Chuan drops from the tree. Humans, how dare you invade my demon tribe, that the two demons shout as soon as they see Chuan. Their bodies surge with demonic energy, and a strong, fishy odor fills the air. They charge at Chuan. Chuan raises his knife. Clang, that the blade sings as it slices through the air, a flash of cold light. The two demons suddenly feel darkness closing in, and they catch a glimpse of their own headless bodies spraying blood. The sight feels strangely familiar. Then, the corpses decompose, dissolving into a pool of pus. Chuan isn't surprised, this world rejects demons. When they die, they dissolve into pus. After killing the two demons, Chuan heads toward the demon tribe, killing every demon he sees along the way. Soon, Chuan reaches the center of the tribe where the demonic energy is strongest. Many demons are practicing demonic skills here. A thick, fishy smell and a suffocating aura of evil fill the air. It's a hellscape.